All right, ready to dive into some fascinating cultural quirks.
Always up for a little cultural exploration. Where are we headed today?
Today, we're going Dutch. We're taking a deep dive into those uniquely Dutch habits that might leave newcomers scratching their heads.
Ah, yes. Wait, what? Moments of cultural exchange? Those are always fun.
Absolutely. And to guide our deep dive, we're turning to our friends at Taal Doet Meer in Utrecht. They've compiled 7 Dutch habits that they say newcomers find particularly peculiar.
Utrecht, you say. Adds a nice local flavor. So what Dutch delight are we dissecting first?
Let's talk lunch. Or should I say, the Dutch speed lunch.
Speed lunch. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, the article describes it as, and I quote, efficient, which, let's be honest, is a polite way of saying gone in 60 seconds.
Right. No lingering over a 3-course meal.
Not quite. Think more along the lines of bread, cheese, maybe a slice of ham if you're feeling fancy, and bam, back to work.
Ah, I see. Getting straight to the point. Just like the Dutch themselves. Is that a connection we're making here?
Maybe? What do you think?
Yeah.
Is there a link between the Dutch speed lunch and their reputation for being incredibly direct?
I'd say it's more than likely. In many cultures, lunch is a social ritual, a time to savor food and connect. But in the Netherlands, practicality reigns supreme.
So it's not about being antisocial, just super efficient.
Exactly. They value their work-life balance and see a quick lunch as maximizing their time. More time for work, more time for leisure later. It's all about that balance.
Makes sense. So from one efficient endeavor to another, let's talk about the Dutch and their agendas.
Ah, yes, the infamous Dutch agenda.
It's almost legendary at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make spontaneous plans with the Dutchie is like trying to herd cats.
Or perhaps trying to get a windmill to change direction.
Okay, that's a good one. But seriously, everything is scheduled, color-coded, meticulously planned. Why so organized, do you think?
Well, imagine living in a small, densely populated country for centuries, coordinating resources, managing a bustling trade network, all within a stone's throw of your neighbor. Planning becomes less of a choice and more of a necessity, wouldn't you say?
That's a good point. Limited space, limited time, got to make the most of it.
Precisely. And when everyone's on the same page, it minimizes surprises and maximizes efficiency. It's direct, it's organized, very Dutch indeed.
Speaking of organized, let's move from meticulously planned calendars to the organized chaos that is Koningsdag, or King's Day as we might call it.
King's Day. A day for nationwide celebrations, I presume.
You bet. But with a uniquely Dutch twist. It involves everyone taking to the streets to sell their used belongings. Imagine a nationwide yard sale exploding with orange decorations and a healthy dose of Dutch gezelligheid.
Gezelligheid.
Ah, yes. Had to sneak that in there. It's that uniquely Dutch word that embodies a feeling of warmth, conviviality, togetherness. It's tough to translate directly.
Sounds delightful. But a nationwide yard sale for the king's birthday, that's an interesting way to celebrate.
That's what I thought. And from one unique celebration to another, let's talk about birthday parties, Dutch style.
Oh, this should be good. I've had whispers about Dutch birthday parties being a bit different.
Different is an understatement. So you might be used to wishing the birthday person a happy birthday and leaving it at that, right?
Pretty standard birthday etiquette, yeah.
Not in the Netherlands. Be prepared to congratulate everyone in the room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, that guy always sits in the corner.
Everyone. Are you sure they don't just hand out a stack of greeting cards at the door?
Honestly, that might be more efficient. But like most Dutch customs, this congratulate the entire room thing stems from a good place.
Oh, I bet it does. It's about community, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about inclusivity, about making everyone feel like they're part of the celebration. So be prepared for a congratulatory conga line.
I'll brush up on my Dutch congratulations then. Speaking of being upfront, we can't discuss Dutch quirks without mentioning their famed directness.
It's true, they don't beat around the bush, do they?
Not really. Their article we're looking at today even calls it deliciously Dutch, which I find rather amusing.
Deliciously Dutch. I like that. Though I imagine that level of directness could be a bit jarring for some.
Oh, absolutely. It can be refreshing or terrifying, depending on your cultural background, but it's important to remember it's not meant to be rude.
It's more about honesty and clarity.
Precisely. They value clear communication and figure everyone's an adult who can handle the truth, even if it's delivered like a bolt out of the blue.
So a double-edged sword, perhaps.
Yeah.
Refreshing honesty, but maybe not for the faint of heart.
Something like that. But speaking of contrasting cultural approaches, let's talk about elder care in the Netherlands. It's quite fascinating, actually.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, you might assume that a culture valuing independence and self-reliance wouldn't prioritize caring for their elderly, right?
I suppose that's a bit of a stereotype, yeah.
Yeah. It is. In reality, the Dutch have a strong tradition of mantelzorg, which roughly translates to mantle care.
Mantle care. Okay, tell me more about that. That's a new one for me.
Essentially, it involves family members stepping up to provide care for their aging loved ones at home, a true labor of love.
So keeping it within the family. Makes sense.
It does, but here's where it gets interesting. Alongside this deep-rooted tradition of family care, the Netherlands also has a very well-developed system of verpleeghuizen, nursing homes, in other words.
So which is it then? Family care or institutional care? Seems like a bit of a contradiction.
It's not really an either-or situation. Think of it more as a balancing act.
Balancing act. Okay. How so?
Well, as admirable as mantelzorg is, it's not always possible. People have busy lives, and caring for an elderly relative can be very demanding, physically and emotionally.
Absolutely. It's a big responsibility.
Right. So these verpleeghuizen, they act as a safety net when family support alone isn't enough. It's not about rejecting family values. It's about being realistic and providing the best possible care.
A pragmatic approach. Just like the speed lunches we talked about.
Exactly. It all ties together. And speaking of seemingly contradictory cultural approaches, let's round off our Dutch deep dive with a look at funeral planning.
Funeral planning. Now, that's not something you bring up every day. Seems a bit, well, heavy for our lighthearted chat about Dutch quirks.
It might seem that way, but bear with me. It's actually quite interesting how they approach it. You see, where some cultures might see funerals as a time for spontaneous expressions of grief, the Dutch bring their signature practicality to the table.
Practicality in funerals, huh? Okay, I'm really curious now.
Imagine this. Carefully curated guest lists, meticulously chosen flower arrangements, even photo slideshows meticulously crafted to celebrate the deceased's life.
Wow, so it's quite organized.
Very much so. But it's not about being cold or suppressing grief. It's about channeling those emotions into a meaningful, structured farewell. They honor the deceased with the same care and attention to detail that they valued in life. Order in life, order in death, very Dutch.
It's a different way of looking at it, that's for sure.
That's the beauty of cultural exploration, isn't it? Challenges our perspectives and broadens our understanding.
Absolutely. Well, from speed lunches to meticulously planned goodbyes, we've certainly ventured through a whirlwind of Dutch quirks today. It's amazing how much we can learn about a culture just by scratching beneath the surface, don't you think?
Absolutely. What might seem strange or even humorous at first glance often has deep cultural roots. Understanding the why behind the what, that's where the real insights lie.
So true. What might seem like a head-scratching habit might actually reflect values like practicality, directness, a strong sense of community values that shape a culture's identity.
Well said. So, next time we encounter something seemingly different, let's remember to approach it with curiosity, not judgment. Who knows what we might discover?
Wise words. Until next time, keep exploring, keep your minds open, and remember, the world is a fascinating tapestry of cultures, each with its own unique patterns and rhythms. And who knows, maybe some of our own habits would seem strange to someone else. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.